Okay. Hi, and welcome to my first episode of my podcast. Oh my gosh, my name's Kate. As you can tell, I'm really excited to do this, but I'm gonna be honest, I've done this a million quadrillion times. But I'm here. And this is going to be the good take. So I think this is the one where I could really hard launch the name. I have went back and forth with this name literally every episode I've tried to record. Every single one. And it's not necessarily that I don't like it, but I'm worried it's just not going to resonate. And I'm worried it's just not going to be the right thing, and it's not going to get enough clicks, or whatever. I'm here, and this is the one I'm deciding to do. So if you're ready, then I am ready. I'm ready. So, welcome to the first episode of Let Me Make You Feel Heard. Oh my gosh, it's so weird to say that. Welcome to the first episode. This is so exciting, guys. I really don't know how to start this, and that sounds odd because I just said I have recorded this so many times, but every time it has been a roller coaster of do I like this, and I have so many different ideas, but I know exactly what I want to talk about, so get ready, strap in, we're ready to go. I really have a hard time sitting and talking about my emotions or feelings about situations, and it's not even necessarily that I just have a hard time, but then I feel like I'm putting a mask on, or I get extremely uncomfortable. And I think it's funny because that's literally what a podcast is. Like, I'm sitting here and I'm talking about my opinions and my feelings, and especially with this podcast, my feelings. And you know what? Here I am talking to you, and here you are choosing to listen. So I'm really grateful that you are here and choosing to listen, because I think that you should give this a chance. At least give it a chance, okay? I find myself giving people advice, like, on the regular, like, I'd say pretty often, daily almost, and I always get like the same kind of response, and it's usually something to do with me being emotionally intelligent. And I don't necessarily think that I'm emotionally intelligent. I just think that I have went through a lot of experiences that really help me give people advice, because I really did make a lot of the wrong decisions, and there's things that it's like, oh, I wish I would have done this, or I wish I would have learned this sooner, or I know not to do this. I definitely know not to do this. So I think that this is going to be perfect for me, because I really do want to share those things with people, and I want to be able to give people advice, so I can hopefully give you a little knock on the head before you bump into a wall. So let me tell you a little bit about myself. My name is Kate. Like I already said, I'm 17 years old. I am a senior in high school. I like to play the guitar. I like to act. I love theater. I like to sing. I love to write. And that's about it. That's about all I can tell you, and that's because I hammered them out. I actually had a friend the other day say, she looked at me and she asked me, Kate, I really don't know much about your outside of school life. Like, what do you do? Like, what are your hobbies? And I literally went blank. Guys, I looked at her like this. At some point, I actually looked at my other friend while going, like she could answer for me. Honestly, I'm not really sure what's up with that. I could not tell you. I think, actually, it really correlates to what we're going to talk about today, because you're supposed to know yourself better than anyone. That's just how that is, right? And it's not that I don't. I do know myself inside and out, but there's just certain things that I never figured out because I think I've been too busy giving myself to others. And it's like that to a point that I'm so unknown to myself because I gave myself to others, and still continuously do, on such a level that I forgot to learn anything about myself, because I've always been too busy giving that to someone else. And I don't think that that's necessarily just in romantic relationships at all, like whatsoever. I think that also has to do with friendships and family relationships. I think that has to do with every single relationship in my life. And that definitely sucks. I would rather that to just be with romantic relationships, because then at least I could just put a block on it and be like, no, but I can't just not have friends. I can't just not have family members. So I think that it is scary, but at least I've acknowledged it, and I hope that this is your first step to acknowledge it too. And I don't think it's a bad thing, because I've always given the kind of love that I've wanted to receive, but I've just never received it. And what I can say about that is, genuinely, if you have ever talked to me, if you know me, and you have talked to me about something personal in your life, or you've just told me something about a unique experience that you went through, or something deep or emotional about yourself, I love you. I actually promise, like, I love you. And that's just how I am, because I just love with every single bone in my body, and I love every single, like, there's not a human being on this earth that I couldn't say there's, like, at least one thing that I love about them, because I just love people, and I freaking, like, I don't know how to put it in any other words, but I just love people. I love hearing about their experiences. I love picking up on the little things that they do, and I think that that's not a bad thing. It's really not a bad thing. If you're like that and you love like that, it's not a bad thing. It's honestly a superpower. But when it becomes a problem is when you lose yourself in loving others. And that's exactly what we're going to be talking about today, because it's a really big issue, and it's the problem with being this kind of emotional, loving person, because no matter how much it's like, oh, it's such a good thing because, oh, you're so kind and you love all these people, but sometimes you just love too much, and you're going to love the wrong person at least once or twice. I think I've spent so much time trying to make everyone around me feel loved that I forgot to save some of that for myself. And I don't even think it's about people pleasing anymore. Like, I really always just kind of labeled myself as a people pleaser. I was like, oh no, it's okay, like, I'm just a people pleaser, like, that's just how I am. But I don't think that's what it is. I really don't think that's what it is anymore. It's more that I genuinely measure my self-worth based on how much I can give. How much I can give someone. How much I can make someone else feel. Not only for me, but for people around them, just in general, how much I can give to a person. And that becomes an issue because you will lose yourself like that. Because once you begin to give yourself so much to someone, and you're just giving and giving and giving, and the only kind of thing that you ever receive is their thanks for that giving, and that is your base and soul, like, that is how you get your happiness, it's not good. Because you are literally losing yourself in giving that person so much love. And it took me a really long time to acknowledge that. And don't get me wrong, although I have acknowledged it, I still don't know how to stop it. And I can work on it, and I can recognize the patterns, but it doesn't mean that I'm perfect. And I think that it can get to a point where one day I will at least stop measuring my self-worth on that, but also just be able to acknowledge it and leave and exit that situation, because that's when pedestal love kind of comes into play. And honestly, to be honest with you, I don't know if that's a real thing. That's a word I made up for this episode today, so we're gonna call it that, and I'm gonna read you the definition I wrote down for pedestal love. So pedestal love is when you put someone so high up in your mind that they almost seem perfect. You admire them so much that you ignore their flaws. And with this, I could really talk about friendships or romantic relationships. Personally, it does not connect in a family kind of relationship way to me, because I just don't see pedestal love that way. I don't really put my family on a pedestal. I think that it really does have to do with more friendships and romantic relationships. I would talk about friendships, but I think I'm gonna make a whole, no, I know I'm gonna make a whole nother episode on that, because friendships and pedestal love in general is just such a broad topic that I think it really just needs its own episode. So I'm going to really narrow down on pedestal love today by talking specifically about relationships and how it feels to be in a relationship where you feel pedestal love for the person. And what I meant earlier when I was talking about acknowledging it but not necessarily doing anything about it, I know I've done that in one of these relationships, because pedestal love has taken me down over and over and over and over again. I can't even stress it enough. If I love someone, and this is in a relationship or friendship too, you are put on a pedestal. You are just like everything to me. Once I love you at a certain point, you are perfecter than perfect. Like, you cannot do anything wrong. Which also means that once I'm hurt by that person, it takes a lot for me to acknowledge it. And once I've acknowledged it, I can't leave. I can't leave. I can acknowledge that I'm being hurt. I can have friends telling me, you're being hurt, you're not getting what you deserve out of this relationship, to be specific. And I won't leave, because to me, they're my ride or die. They are absolutely my everything, because they're on such a pedestal that I put them on. I dug myself that hole. I put them on that. They never asked to be on that, and not necessarily, of course, there can be manipulative relationships where that person really does take the stand to make you put them on that pedestal. But when I'm talking about this, I mean the situations that I dug for myself and putting that person on a pedestal. Because pedestal love is a habit that I need to get out of, and I know a lot of people need to get out of. I've seen so many friends in those kind of relationships, and you can't do anything about it, because honestly, my last relationship was unfortunately a lot like that. I let myself get disrespected often, and although I acknowledged it, and many people around me acknowledged it and talked to me about it, I wouldn't leave, because what mattered to me was my partner's happiness. And it's really unfortunate that the people who love as much as me get stuck in situations like that. Because although that person might not be trying to hurt you, you can be being punched down and punched down and punched down, but the little step forward, the little part that makes all those bruises feel so much better, is that you're giving them what you think they need. So that's all you need, because that person that is on a pedestal for you, as long as they're happy and you're the one making them happy, no matter how that is, no matter how disrespected you are, no matter how much you're disrespecting yourself to get them to that point, you are making them happy, and that's really all that matters to you, because you're getting those little tokens of, oh, he complimented me this day, oh my gosh, he made me smile today, oh my gosh, he's so happy with me, I have to do all of this again and again and again, all exactly the exact same way, just to see that smile. Because they're on such a pedestal to you, and I don't want to necessarily say that they feel like God, but that's really what it feels like when you're in it, because it feels like they are your ride or die. You're not living without them. You can't live without them. But something about that I'm here to tell you is that you're not in love with that person. You're in love with the idea of them. You have this person made up in your head, and you know what, maybe I'm not going to say you, because I don't want to be too specific to anyone. So at least in my specific situation, I had this person made up in my head, and there was so much hope that if I loved him enough and I gave him enough of that love, that maybe it would click to him that I was just as deserving of that love. Deserving, I don't think deservant is the word, but deserving of that love. It's like you start thinking that love is something you earn instead of just something that you deserve by existing. And I have heard so many people say something along the lines of that. And it only started to truly resonate with me over like the last couple months, because for some reason, so many people are made to feel like at such a young age, just by the people around them, that they only should get the love that they deserve when they've done something to reward that. To get that as a reward. And it's really sad how many people I can say that I've watched go down that rabbit hole, as well as myself, of course, and it's really something that I am trying to teach myself out of, but you only can to a certain point. I think that it just takes a lot of time and it takes a lot of strength to really step out of situations to be like, well, I deserve this. I don't have to earn it. And lately I've been trying to figure out how to give without losing myself. And I think truly the question is, how can I not feel guilty for saying no and for putting my energy into myself for once? And it's weird, and it almost feels selfish in a way, especially when you're doing it for like one of the first times in your entire life. But it isn't. It's not selfish at all. It's uncomfortable because it feels wrong, and it takes time to really get comfortable with it. I'm not comfortable with it. I think I've only started really being able to put my foot down and say this isn't right for me. At least it all depends on the situation, right? Because I think that in friendships, it's really easy for me to go, whoa, no more of this once I've acknowledged what's going on. In relationships, it's a little bit hard for me because of my past and boundaries that I have let myself, just kind of be walked all over, and not really, like, boundaries that I've set for myself that haven't always been fully respected, and I kind of thought that was normal when it's not normal. So I'm learning how to do that. And with family, it's not necessarily hard, but it's hard to say, like, it's like saying no to your grandma. Like, how do you say no to your grandma because you're just in a really crappy mood and you really know that you can't give that person, like your grandma, your all that day? Like, how are you supposed to do that? It's really uncomfortable, right? And of course, don't always put yourself first. Like, your grandma deserves for you to show up and do what she wants because she's your grandma. But it's also okay to say no and not feel guilty about it, especially when you're in a position where that's what you need. If that's what you need, then do it. I think that it's very normalized in our generation to either, I don't want to do this, so I'm not going to, and I don't care who it hurts, or I don't want to do this, but I don't want to hurt anyone, so I'll do it anyways. And I think that we really need to find that middle ground, because neither of those are healthy, not only for yourself, but also the people around you, because once you start giving too much, there's no going back, and once you start giving too, or if you don't give enough, you're just gonna lose everyone in your life, to be honest with you. So I do want to say that if you are someone who gives too much, or who loves with your whole heart and sometimes forgets to love yourself, you're not broken for being that way. It truly isn't a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. It's just something that you really need to acknowledge so you can choose yourself for maybe the first time in your life. Because you deserve to keep some of that love for yourself, and you cannot pour from an empty heart. Eventually, that empty heart will break. And I'm here to tell you that it can break, but truly the hardest part is letting it break. Well, don't get to the point that it breaks, but if it's breaking, you gotta let it break. Let it break. Acknowledge that it's happening. Pick yourself off of the ground, because, honey, I'm sorry, but usually there's not going to be anyone else to pick it all up for you, and work on it. You're not just going to change, because if you don't acknowledge it and you don't try to work on it and change, you're just going to break, and eventually you're just going to be broken. And not to say that you're going to be broken or you are broken, but you're going to just continue to break until you can look at the root of your problem, because you know what the root of your problem probably is? Do you even love yourself? Do you? Honestly, do you? Do you love yourself? Because sometimes we do think we do, and then as you break and you're like, oh, I don't think I love myself very much. And I think that I'm learning that loving yourself isn't just bubble baths and journaling and, like self-affirmations. It's an uncomfortable kind of love. The kind where you hold yourself accountable and set boundaries and stop waiting for someone else to give you the love that you have been craving, because you're the only one who can give it to yourself. Genuinely, no one else in your life can. No one else. I used to think that love was giving until it hurt. But now I think it's about learning to stand beside people, not below them. So if you're like me, and if you're trying to figure out how to love without losing yourself, that's okay. I promise we're in it together, because although I've acknowledged it, and I can talk about it because I've thought about it so much for months on end, we're learning together, and I can promise you there's a whole community out there trying to learn to love themselves. Because maybe this is what growth actually feels like. It's lonely. It feels pretty lonely, but I promise it's going to be freeing in the end, because I would say I have only been on this journey for, I want to say longer than like 6-ish months, but honestly, it's probably only been 6-ish months that I've really acknowledged it. So it's kind of insane that I can already say I feel so much freer than I have probably ever. So that's really all I have to say about that. And just don't let yourself get lost in someone else and the love you have for someone else. It's not worth it. No matter how much you want it to be, it's not worth it. So thank you so much for listening to the first episode of Let Me Make You Feel Heard. If this felt like it was meant for you, I hope you come back next week, and I hope you continue to listen to my podcast, and I hope everyone that listened did enjoy. Have a wonderful rest of your evening, night, morning. I don't even know, but I love you so much. Mwah!